retaining volunteer talent in your community. If you can tweet #RetainAtSXSW, that would make us so happy. It would be good to see the kind of things that you get out of this, and any feedback that you're able to put through on Twitter would be great. So, a few introductions first of all. There we go. So my name is Baucherel. My background, I had a software development company, and we produced an online community platform which we had aimed at membership organisations. And as we started to market this, we started to attract a lot of non-profits who came and said that we're looking for something different for our volunteers. And I started getting interested in how volunteering might get benefits from the kind of software that we were producing. And after that business was sold, I continued to research in the space. So that's my background.
Hi, I'm Victoria Taylor. I work at WeWork as the Director of Digital Community. Although I've been working with volunteer communities for quite a few years, I work with a variety of nonprofits, including organizations like Stand Up to Cancer, and JPHRO, FINCA, and others. And then I also worked at Reddit with quite a few volunteers as well, and former moderators for a few years before joining WeWork.
Hi, I'm David J. Neff. I'm at DaveIM on Twitter. I spent 8 years at the American Cancer Society in a variety of roles in communications and fundraising. And then for the past 5 years, I founded another nonprofit called Lights Camera Help, which is based here in Austin, that connects filmmakers to nonprofits and nonprofits to filmmakers. So I think my role will be a little bit to talk about large organizations and volunteering and small organizations, and then sometimes a difficult set of folks to get to volunteer for the filmmakers, how busy they are and how ingrained they are in other things as well. And then I've had a great opportunity at my day job to start my company's volunteering process, which is called Clearhead Cares, so I can kind of also speak to how you get employees and other folks motivated to volunteer at work.
Okay, thank you. So, let's get into the detail of what we want to talk about today. So, as I said, my original interest in volunteering came from, okay, so we looked at a number of challenges for volunteer retention. Things that have become evident from all of our involvement in volunteering over the years. First of all, what is the motivation for people starting to volunteer, and how does that change over time? Second, how do you measure that impact? Because we know that volunteers make a huge impact on organisations, but is it being adequately measured? Is it something that needs to be measured? And is it something that is measurement going to improve the non-profit? And finally, we wondered whether volunteers really can see the bigger picture. Do they understand exactly what they're contributing to when they're working? So, the original research here, when I started to look at retention of volunteers and communication with volunteers, I picked up on some research by a lady called Dr. Jennifer Hagan, whose doctoral thesis looked at sustainable volunteering and cultural heritage attractions. Now, purely by chance, Dr. Hagan lived within the same 15-mile radius as me in the northeast of England, which was kind of useful. So we have started working together and collaborating on research to build on her thesis. Now, her work established that there was a disconnect between volunteers and the organisation. She found that there was volunteer disillusionment, the communication and the fact that the organisation couldn't necessarily cascade its culture to its volunteer cohort were causing problems in terms of retaining volunteers, in terms of volunteer sustainability. She looked at the motivations of volunteers and realised that in the sample that she was looking at, the motivations were not necessarily understood, that there was, again, again, that disconnect between full-time and volunteer staff meant that people could not necessarily understand why people were there. Now, so this came to the attention of my team at Ambix, and we were looking at whether an online community solution could solve some of those collaboration problems, some of those communication problems, to improve motivation, improve the cascading culture. So now we come to the start of 2017, and we conducted research using snowball methodology, disseminating surveys across social media, and we gathered 64 responses from the UK, from the USA, from France, Australia, all over, a really good spread of responses between volunteers and volunteer coordinators. On top of that, conducted a number of interviews, one with the head of volunteering and engagement of a charity with 30,000 volunteers in the UK alone, one with a senior member of a professional institute who was looking at the volunteering culture within their own organisation, and the third with a gentleman in the United States who works with volunteer training programs in the care sector. So a really broad spread of industry and a broad spread of results. Within the responding organisations, you can see there was a reasonably good spread of sizes, and the teams that people were specifically talking about ranged from under 20 to up to 1,000 people. And as I say, the responses that we had from the charitable sector with 30,000 volunteers was also fantastically useful. So what did we establish? We established that there was 4 things that we needed to address. Motivation, unsurprisingly, was one of the major elements. Measurement of impact, certainly, is something that has very, very different connotations through different organisations. We know that not everyone measures or plans for the impact of volunteers, and we want to know how serious this is. And finally, actually starting to qualify what the problems are with communication, we found the most extraordinary scattergun approach that really is not helping at an organisational level. So I'm going to cover a little bit about the motivation of volunteers and the kind of things this research found out. I'm going to pass over to David to talk about the side of professionals and what the need to treat volunteers in a professional manner, and Victoria will be covering off the communication side. So the motivation for volunteers is a really interesting one. We know that volunteers start at a young age, and they have a change of motivations potentially throughout their volunteer journey. There is always a strong desire from the results that we got for volunteers to be taken seriously, because they are there to support the cause for which they volunteer. And finally, they really do have the potential to play a significant role in the organisation. So they deserve a lot of support. These are the figures. Volunteers start young. In our sample, a large proportion had started volunteering before the age of 25. They were all older now, so they're obviously sticking at it for quite a long time. And the reasons for actually starting to volunteer came up with some very, very interesting disparities. So we asked both volunteers and volunteer managers why they started volunteering, or why they thought their volunteers started, and why they now continue to volunteer. And this threw up the disconnect that Dr. Hagen had identified in her own research. because the volunteer managers, the coordinators, will say, yeah, okay, there are many reasons why people would volunteer. There's the social side, then maybe doing this for work experience, a very, very broad range of motivations that they identified. But the volunteers themselves identified very strongly with supporting the cause for which they were volunteering. And the other reasons for volunteering were very much secondary. They may do it for a social reason, but they go and choose where they want to volunteer because they have that strong interest in it. And that didn't really seem to be recognised as such a standout, paramount motivation by the people who were actually coordinating volunteer activity. I have to say my favourite response, why did you start volunteer, was my mother made me. I'm sure the few of us like that. And as the volunteers mature in their experience, again we see that supporting the cause is a very strong motivation. There is the build-up of the social aspect, which you'd expect anyway. If you were working in an organisation, you would have that social aspect to your work. If you were working full-time, if you're a paid employee, you would enjoy the social integration, you would enjoy the fact that you have a community of fellow employees. And that is the same for volunteers who've been there for a long term. But still, the cause is paramount. And again, reinforcing the work that Jen did, she found that the motivation and reinforcing that motivation aided retention. So while our volunteers were reporting that their own motivation was to do with the cause they supported, there is a lesson there for coordinators that if they reinforce the cause, they retain their volunteers more effectively. Actually, one of the interviews that I conducted with the charity, it was actually Oxfam in the UK, and they spend a lot of time with training of volunteers, with communicating volunteers, so that they understand that they're not, say, in a shop getting £20 for selling some goods that have been donated. They know that what they are doing in that volunteer role is delivering a certain benefit. They know exactly what the benefit is, they know the stories of the people who have benefited, and this reinforces their understanding of what they're volunteering for, because it's kind of Oxfam is quite a tricky concept. But, well, what do they do? Well, I'm not so sure. They reinforce very clearly what that volunteer's contribution is going to deliver. And that helps them to retain their volunteers and, again, to cascade culture. So I think that the lesson of motivation is one that is a very clear thing to take home.